Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us for today's ANX Technology Webcast, Top 5 Challenges of an EDI Coordinator. My name is Chris Schramm, and I am the Marketing Coordinator here at ANX. To our audience, please note that this is just one of many in a multi-part series on electric data interchange, better known as EDI, and steps you can take to strengthen your business and communication using EDI. For more information, please visit ANX.com. Before we begin, let's cover a few logistical details. All lines are in listen-only mode. We will answer questions at the end of the event, but feel free to ask questions at any time by typing into your chat box. A link to the webinar recording will be emailed shortly after the event, and it will also be available for on-demand download at ANX.com. Every attendee today will receive a $5 Starbucks gift card. Also, there will be a couple of opportunities. At the end of today's webinar, one participant will be randomly chosen to win a $50 Amazon.com gift certificate. You must be present to win. And all participants of our EDI webinars will be entered into a drawing with one random participant winning a Kindle Fire tablet. More details on this drawing will be at the end of today's webinar. With that said, it is my pleasure to introduce our featured speaker for this webinar. As Transaction Delivery Service Manager at ANX, Kathleen Buckman has over 20 years experience in electronic business-to-business commerce. A graduate of the University of Michigan, Buckman has performed a variety of roles throughout her career, including technical writing and course development, training, client management, consulting, and engagement management. She has worked with customers in a variety of industries, including automotive, retail, manufacturing, and healthcare, and is well-versed in all EDI standards, including ANSI X12, EDIFECT, VDA, ODET, Tradicoms, and XML. Kathleen's role at ANX as manager of the Transition Delivery Service team includes managing the EDI mapping and provision team, speaking with customers to clarify and scope their requirements, providing staff augmentations, working with the ANX support manager to ensure the highest level of service to our EDI customers, and engagement management for our managed service customers. Kathleen, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Chris. It's my pleasure to be here today to talk about some of the most pressing issues that each of you is confronted with each day. Implementation deadlines, system monitoring, error resolution, all of these paired with constant technology and industry changes can result in stress and frustration for an EDI coordinator. These challenges alone can sometimes seem like a full-time job that most companies simply don't have the resources for. So let's talk about those problems and how we can take steps to eliminate them from your everyday job. Challenge number 1, meeting customer enablement timelines. If you're in the role of supplier or another relationship where your trading partner's in the driver's seat, you know how difficult this task can be. Let's take a look at what you can do to successfully meet this challenge. The first step, and sometimes the most difficult one, is to simply understand your customer's requirements. If you're lucky, your customer will provide you with an implementation guideline. This should contain a list of required documents, detailed descriptions of the segment and element structures, and lists of acceptable data values. Something your partner may not provide is test data. Test data is extremely important to obtain at the beginning of the process. It will be necessary for the map creation process and will allow you to verify that the data matches the guideline. So if data is not provided, ask for it. If you can get multiple test files, it's even better. This goes for inbound and outbound data. You want to see how the partner will send you data and how they expect to receive data from you. The next key fact you need to determine are your trading partner's testing requirements and deadlines. You'll want to obtain 3 pieces of information. First is contact info. Knowing who to contact to request guidelines and test files, to begin your official testing process, and for technical questions can make a real difference in the success of the implementation and the time it takes you to complete it. Second is learning your partner's timeline and any deadlines that apply to you. This might be stated in the guideline, but more commonly is found in a supplier letter that you should have received regarding the enablement process. And last but not least are the fees. Are there fees associated with the testing or enablement process? In most cases there aren't, but you'll want to verify that. Also, check if there's a specific timeline for the testing. If you exceed it, there could be penalties involved, so ask ahead of time if that will be the case. To ensure that your enablement process goes smoothly, I'd highly recommend that you keep in good contact with your customer. Provide regular status updates on your progress. Keep them informed of where you are in the overall process. Be sure to notify them if you're encountering any issues, and most importantly, provide them with an estimated completion date. And if it changes, update them. Good communication can buy you some leeway if you find you're falling behind. Now let's talk a little about what you'll do internally to stay on track. Utilizing a status tracking spreadsheet or project plan can help you stay focused, see visually at a glance where you are in your process, and track any issues. The chart at the right is one that we use here at ANX on our implementation projects. We list the trading partners and documents to be enabled, and we have columns for the various stages of the process: unit testing, end-to-end testing, right through to go live. It's an easy step to help you stay on track and can help you provide management with an overview of your progress. Another consideration is your internal development time. As you plan out your timeline, be sure to take all of the following into account: analysis of the partner specs, map creation, trading partner setup, unit testing of the map, end-to-end testing with the trading partner, and connectivity setup and testing. While you're reviewing your partner's requirements and going through the mapping process, be cognizant of your own business rules and requirements. What you need in your application, how the data is stored there, can all impact how you'll map your partner's data. So keep that in mind throughout the design and creation of the maps. Okay, challenge number 2, adequately monitoring production data. This is a big job. So the first step is to properly assess your monitoring needs. What are your peak traffic times? What and when are your critical data transfers? Do you have holiday coverage requirements? Document these so you can plan for coverage. A big part of monitoring your production systems is receiving, understanding, and reacting to acknowledgments from your trading partner. So let's review the most common acknowledgments used. First, we have the 997 functional acknowledgment from ANSI X12, or in EDIFACT, the control message. This document is used for syntax checking against the EDI standard. Some examples of errors would be missing mandatory data, a maximum character limit exceeded, or invalid data, such as alpha data in a numeric field. The next acknowledgement type is an 824 application advice, which is used a fair amount in the industry. And in EDIFACT, it's called an APARAC. This document is used for content checking. So it's not created by your partner's translator. Rather, it's created by them once they've tried to load the data into their system. And it would contain errors such as an invalid PO number or an incorrect part number format. Finally, if you do shipping, you may receive a receiving advice or an 861 from your trading partner. In EDIFACT, this is a REC ADV, and this is a discrepancy report. So an example would be that the quantity of parts received on a shipment would not equal the quantity indicated on the ASN document. Along the lines of production monitoring is challenge number 3, managing alerts. So first, let's review the most common issues that crop up in a production EDI environment, so you'll know what you need to be alerted on. Translation failures and warnings. Translation failure could be due to invalid data or a system issue, such as a database lock or a shortage of memory or disk space. Delivery failures, such as van outages, or missing functional acknowledgments. Now that we've looked at what can cause alerts in our system, how do we want to handle them? As much as possible, you want to automate your system to alert you when there's a problem. You may not have the luxury of having a 24/7 support staff to monitor your system. It's much more efficient to design your system to trigger an alert when any of those problems occur and have that alert sent to a central email address. For example, you can create a script or process that will generate an email delivery of an unacknowledged document report, or send a text when there's a translator error. And finally, a big part of managing alerts and monitoring your system is reconciliation. Reconciling functional acknowledgments is an important step in ensuring that your outbound data is being successfully received by your partner. And it's extremely important for your most business and time-critical documents. You can set up your system to generate a report if a critical document remains unacknowledged for a specific period of time. So we've looked at managing alerts and errors from a reactive stance. How about attacking it proactively, preventing errors before they occur? On outbound data, you can do as much as possible at the application level to ensure that only valid data will be pushed to the translator. So look for opportunities in your application software to do this. Make your data as bulletproof as possible. Along the same lines, practice defensive mapping. Use mapping logic to anticipate and mitigate data issues. Hard code standard values whenever possible instead of mapping them straight from your data. Think about the types of fields that are apt to have special characters in them, which can be mistaken for EDI delimiters, and map to modify those characters. And as a final proactive measure, be sure to maintain your system. There are 3 kinds of maintenance to consider. First is hardware. You need to ensure that proper maintenance is being done to ensure your system is always up and running smoothly, and with adequate disk and memory space. Second is software. You'll want to ensure that the software is current and up-to-date and still supported by the provider. And third is certificates and licenses. Be sure to find out when any connectivity certificates are set to expire and that you renew them in time. You would have these for any secure connections such as Secure FTP or SSL. Failing to do these steps will undoubtedly lead to disruption of your production data flow. That brings us to challenge number 4, keeping up with changing EDI technology. First, let's look at standards. We're all familiar with ANSI X12, most commonly used in North America. It's continually updated through new releases and versions. Another standard you may have heard of is EDIFACT. EDIFACT is used most commonly in Europe, but it is used by some companies here in the U.S., and it's very similar to X12. Documents have 6-character names instead of 3-digit numbers to identify them. So an 850 purchase order is known as an orders in EDIFACT. One other difference with EDIFACT is it uses a standardized set of delimiters, such as the element separator and the segment terminator. Next is XML, which stands for Extensible Markup Language. This is becoming more and more prevalent. It's just another way to transport data electronically, and you may encounter some customers who will want to send you only XML data, not X12 or EDIFACT. This is probably because they've changed their back-end system to one that produces XML. You'll want to make sure that your mapping tool supports XML mapping and translation, and that your mapper is familiar with the structure. Next is VDA. VDA is a German automotive standard. So if you do business with companies such as Volkswagen, Audi, Bosch, or Daimler, you'll need to become familiar with this standard. VDA is different from X12 and EDIFACT. It's not delimited data. It's really flat files with fixed length fields and records. And we have ODET. ODET is an organization representing the interests of the automotive industry in Europe, much like the AIAG in the U.S. The data is very similar to EDIFACT, but it's focused on the automotive industry. Okay, let's look at communication protocols. As trading partners change to new technologies, managing additional communication software and protocols can be costly and time-consuming. There are a couple of protocols which are being used more and more, AS2 and AS3. Both protocols are popular because they encrypt the data and because they provide an instantaneous acknowledgement, known as an MDN, which stands for Message Delivery Notification. These are basically point-to-point connections, but your van can make the connection on your behalf. So if you have a partner who wants to set it up, simply notify your van and they'll take care of it. AS2 is based on secure HTTP, and AS3 is based on secure FTP protocol. And finally, we have OFTP, which stands for Odette File Transfer Protocol. This is used primarily in Europe and primarily over ISDN lines. It's a specification for secure transfer of data over the Internet, ISDN, or X25 networks. It can work point-to-point or through a van in either a push or pull mode. OFTP2 can encrypt and sign message data. And OFTP is used primarily in Europe, by companies such as Volvo and Volkswagen. And our final challenge, number 5, enabling business continuity by managing backup and DR capabilities. So in other words, what do you do when your system breaks down? Do you have a backup translation environment? Do you have another instance that you continually refresh with a copy of your production system? That's what you need to be able to switch over to that system at a moment's notice in the event of a hardware or software failure. Similarly, do you have a backup data entry mechanism for your most business-critical data? For example, in manufacturing, that would be the advanced ship notice. Do you have a way to enter it and send it without the use of your translator or your application system or connectivity to your van? If not, you'll want to explore your options here. And what about communication? Do you have redundant communication paths in place? For example, look at options for having 2 different internet carriers and 2 different pairs of wires, for instance, copper and fiber, or a Wi-Fi or cell connection. Having 2 carriers but 1 set of wires won't help you if the wires are damaged. And do you have a disaster recovery site that is geographically diverse? In addition to having a failover system at your main site, it's recommended that you have a complete system sitting in a different location that can be failed over to if needed. And looking at this from just the business perspective, do you have the ability to enable and support smaller non-EDI capable trading partners? Do you have a web solution that you can offer them so that you receive all of your data electronically with no paper or faxes? Now we've looked at the 5 major challenges that you might be facing today. Perhaps you've become aware of some that you hadn't considered and now know that you need to address. How can you face these challenges? Let's talk briefly about how ANX can help. Remember our overwhelmed business person from before? What if we could take away all these worries with just one click and organize them for you? It might look something like this. Sure, the issues and challenges still exist, but they're organized and manageable, and this is what ANX can do for you. ANX's approach to EDI features multiple Tier 1 bands with monitoring rollover as needed, enabling the industry's best built-in SLAs with 99.5% uptime guaranteed. ANX experts manage the transition to EDI for all supply chain partners, with over 20,000 successfully onboarded to date. We have a U.S.-based support and mapping team. We've not offshored our call center. It's based right here in Michigan with coverage anytime you need it. And in fact, on the screen now, you'll see a photo of our main call center. Well, this is our first in our series of EDI summer webinars. We have 3 more to go. The next one in about a month, July 19th, where the topic will be the top 4 challenges of enabling trading partners. You can register under the events section at ANX.com. We'll also be sending an email to everyone who attended today with a video link to today's webcast. We'll include information on these future webinars within that email. Also, I'd like to note that ANX will be offering an EDI 101 course as a webinar, and the information on that will also be contained in the email. You can learn more about ANX at our website, ANX.com, or feel free to contact us via the email or phone number on the screen. We are always happy to answer your questions and give you a better understanding of EDI and how products can meet your needs. And before I turn things back over to Chris, I'd like to thank you for your attendance today and hope that you'll stick around for the Q&A session so we can get into detail on your specific questions. But first, back to Chris.
Thank you. Let's do the drawing for the $50 Amazon.com gift card. Glenn Moore, will you please do the honors? All right. It's like Yvonne P. is our winner today. And we do have some questions, and to answer some of our questions, we have Inside Sales Account Executive Don Check, and he's going to help us out here. So the first question we have is there a way to only pay for KCs that I use, and what happens if I pay for $5,000 and I only use $4,500? Do I lose those $500 that I did not use?
Yeah, thanks, Chris. Hi, this is Don Check. So different vans structure their mailbox offerings differently, but we've come up with a unique model that's a lot like your cell phone plan where you have rollover KCs. So KCs that you don't use in this month roll over to the next month to use. So you eliminate overages, but you also eliminate underages. So you're not paying for KCs that go unused. So we have a unique rollover plan, and we'd be happy to talk with any of our participants with that.
Okay, we have another question. This person does EDI for their customers, but they want to know if there's a way to do EDI for their suppliers.
Okay. So this is something that Kathleen touched on with one of her topics, but so supplier enablement is a common topic within companies today. So you do EDI for your customers because they ask you to, but do you ask your suppliers to send you EDI data? So maybe they don't have translation software, maybe they don't have a van service, they're not set up to do EDI. Well, the ANXE business provides a portal service, a low-cost, easy-to-use portal service that we can customize to your company based on the transactions that you commonly receive from your suppliers. So purchase order invoice, ship notice, we're able to customize a portal for those smaller suppliers to log on and automatically send you EDI data. So there's a portal service available we call WebDX.
All right, that looks like it's all the questions that we have. Is there anything else anybody in the room wants to add? No? Okay, we'd like to thank you for joining us, and don't forget to sign up for our July EDI webinar. Thank you.